The Axeman of New Orleans. Between May 1918 and October 1919, this unknown figure terrorized the city with a series of gruesome murders. The killer always struck at night, breaking into homes and using an axe, which he often left behind. On May 23, 1918, Joseph and Catherine Maggio were found brutally murdered in their home. They had been attacked with an axe and had their throats slashed. After this set off a wave of similar attacks, mostly on Italian or Italian-American shopkeepers. The Axeman's last known attack was on October 27, 1919, when he struck Mike Pepitone and his daughter Esther. Mike survived, but Esther did not. The Axeman was never caught, and his identity remains a mystery. The Unsolved Hinterkaifeck Murders. In March 1922, 6 farm inhabitants, including Andreas Gruber, his family, and their maid, were brutally killed with a pickaxe in their barn. The killer stayed at the farm for days after the murders, and evidence suggested someone lived unnoticed in the house before the crime. Despite extensive investigations, including suspects questioning and exhumation, the case remains unsolved. Theories range from family conflicts to secret societies, but conclusive evidence is lacking. The Black Dahlia Murder. The Black Dahlia murder is one of the most notorious unsolved cases in American history. On January 15, 1947, the mutilated body of 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, known as the Black Dahlia, was discovered in Los Angeles. Her body was cut with surgical precision, leaving no trauma to internal organs and bones. Her face was also cut from her mouth to her ears, leaving an eerie permanent smile, which gave rise to a comparison with the Black Dahlia because it is a flower with dark purple or black flowers. The investigation into Short's murder was extensive, involving interviews with numerous witnesses and an analysis of written messages sent to the police and newspapers. Despite various theories and suspects, including several confessions over the years, the case remains unsolved. The bizarre deaths at Dyatlov Pass. In 1959, 9 hikers perished under mysterious circumstances in Russia's mountains. Their abandoned tent, torn from within, was discovered on February 26th. Nearby footprints led to the forest edge. 2 bodies, shoeless and in underwear, were found initially. While hypothermia was first suspected, subsequent examinations revealed contradictory evidence. 1 victim suffered blunt force trauma, another third-degree burns, and 1 was missing a tongue. Radioactivity was detected on some clothing. Theories range from KGB involvement to UFOs and infrasound, a phenomenon including panic. The true cause of their demise remains elusive. The Zodiac Killer. This individual became the most notorious unidentified serial killer of the 20th century in the USA. His case has remained open since 1969 to this day. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, the Zodiac Killer terrorized Northern California by targeting young couples in secluded areas. He murdered at least 5 people, shooting and stabbing. The killer also sent cryptic letters to newspapers, including a 340-character cipher that remained unsolved until 2020. He mentioned how many people he planned to kill, 37, but his handwriting was only found in connection with 7 crimes by law enforcement. Intense investigations and numerous suspects don't have a result by this day. The strange disappearance of D.B. Cooper. On November 24, 1971, a man who came to be known as D.B. Cooper hijacked a Boeing 727 aircraft belonging to Northwest Orient Airlines, which was flying from Portland to Seattle. He demanded a ransom of $200,000 and technical equipment to execute his plan. After his demands were met, the plane took off again. During the flight, D.B. Cooper demanded that the plane head for Mexico. While airborne, he parachuted out of the plane with the money. To this day, the further fate of D.B. Cooper remains unsolved. The Keddie Cabin Murders. The Keddie Cabin Murders took place in Cabin 28 of the Keddie Resort, a remote mountainous area in Northern California. The night of April 11th to 12th, 1981, there were killed Glenna Sue Sharp, her son John, and his friend Dana Wingate. Sue's daughter, Tina Sharp went missing and was found dead weeks later. The bodies were discovered the next morning in the cabin, bound, beaten, and stabbed. Sue and John were found in one bedroom, while Dana was found in a separate room. Tina's remains were found months later, 50 miles away. There were several suspects in the case, but none were formally charged or convicted of a crime. Investigations are ongoing. The Tylenol Murders. In September 1982, Chicago, 7 people died after taking cyanide-laced Tylenol capsules. Investigators found that the cyanide was added after the Tylenol reached stores, but despite extensive efforts, they couldn't identify the perpetrator. James William Lewis sent a letter demanding $1 million to stop the killings and was convicted of extortion but not the murders. Johnson & Johnson recalled 31 million bottles of Tylenol and introduced tamper-evident packaging, now an industry standard. Despite numerous leads, the Tylenol murders remained unsolved and the killer's identity is still unknown. Delhi Monster. Delhi Monster, or Jewel Thief, serial killings that occurred in Delhi, India from 1985 to 1995. Targeted primarily elderly women, offender gained entry to their homes by posing as a potential buyer of jewelry or a salesman, then raped and murdered, robbing them of their valuables, particularly gold jewelry. The bodies were often found mutilated with signs of torture and brutal assaults. Then they were discarded in the outskirts of the city. Suspects were identified, but none of the leads led to definitive arrests or convictions. The investigation is ongoing, yet there has been no concrete evidence or suspects. The JonBenét Ramsey case. On December 26, 1996, in Boulder, Colorado, Patsy Ramsey discovered a ransom note demanding $118,000 for her 6-year-old daughter, beauty pageant contestant JonBenét Ramsey. Despite this, after 7 hours, JonBenét's body was later found in the house. She had been struck on the head and strangled with a garrote. Suspicions initially fell on her family. Patsy was thought to have accidentally killed JonBenét and staged the scene. However, an intruder theory emerged, supported by a broken basement window, an unidentified boot print, and unknown male DNA on her clothing. In 2008, DNA tests cleared the Ramsey family, but the DNA source remains unidentified. This case became the most sensational crime of the 1990s. The Boulder Police Department continues to investigate any new leads. The Disappearance of Madeleine McCann. On May 3, 2007, 3-year-old Madeleine McCann vanished from her family's holiday apartment in Praia de Luz, Portugal. Around 10 p.m., the girl's mother discovered Madeleine missing from her bed. The Portuguese police launched an immediate investigation, but the crime scene was compromised. Early suspicions fell on the McCanns, named formal suspects in September 2007 due to discrepancies in their statements and findings by cadaver dogs. Witnesses reported seeing a man carrying a child near the apartment that night. Despite extensive investigations by Portuguese and British authorities and global media coverage, Madeleine's whereabouts remain unknown. The case is still open, with ongoing efforts to follow new leads. The disappearance of MH370. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 occurred on March 8, 2014, en route to Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The aircraft lost contact with air traffic control and vanished from radar screens, carrying 239 passengers and crew. Extensive search efforts covered a large portion of Southeast Asia and the southern Indian Ocean, but no official evidence or traces of the aircraft were found. Subsequent underwater searches using specialized vessels and submersibles yielded no concrete results. The MH370 disappearance remains one of the most enigmatic and unresolved aviation tragedies in the world.